Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter.
You paused again every
I
week.
will always pause.
We ended the last episode with saying that you could never remember the name of stuff.
I know, and I'm going to do that. That's going to be my thing now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Forgetting the name of your own podcast?
Yeah, I'm going to do that with every show, with every workshop. I'm going to put in this little pause, and it'll be known as the Glenn pause.
The Glenn. That is taking a negative and turning it into a positive,
Absolutely. I'm going to trademark it.
which we should do a podcast on sometime.
Yeah.
However, not today, because today we're talking about, drum roll,
Balance. Oh my God. Yeah, balance, life balance. So basically, we're going to talk about what it is and what it ain't.
Is it like the yin and the yang?
No.
Is it like...
So,
This isn't Ben guesses what we're talking about, Tom.
no, you don't need to guess. I'll actually tell you.
You guys couldn't see it, but I just...
He was waiting with bated breath.
Yes. I realize
Anywho.
this is not a visual medium.
No, this. All we'd be doing is laughing.
Video podcast coming soon. No, it's not.
It's
Don't
not.
expect that.
No. Anyhow,
What is
okay, so back
balance?
to balance. Balance is really good to have,
Yeah.
and it's bad not to have. Oh, a lot of times people think balance is getting everything in order. You know, just kind of. I like to say it's like 33% of three things. You know, that you got the work, and you got the family, and then you got the hobbies, and you have it all balanced out, and it's just perfect, and then you try to maintain it, and that is a recipe for disaster. It's not going to happen.
It's that 0.99% that's left
That
that's going to
throws it
kill
all
you.
off.
Yeah.
No. It's that life always changes. The only thing that we know is that everything changes. So it's never going to be a set. You know, you're never going to have the right job, the right relationship, the right hobbies and everything, and just wake up every morning, go to work, come home, do your thing, go to bed, and nothing ever happens in your life. It's just, that's not how life is. And I mean, honestly, it'd be really, really boring if it did. I mean, you know, what kind of life would that be? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't happen anyway. So, you know, we don't want to fall into the habit of trying to keep everything perfectly balanced. You know, with everything changing, life is more like a dance. It's constantly moving, constantly evolving and changing and shifting, you know, and it's not that we can't have a kind of a go-to point or a settling point that's kind of like 33% of three things. You know, we can kind of get back to that when we can. It's just expecting it to stay there isn't going to happen. So there might be times when, you know, you might have to go on a business trip. Well, work's going to obviously take up more of your time on something like that than family is for that week. It's just going to happen. And sometimes there's an emergency, you know, in your life with your family, and then everything else gets dropped. You know, you might have to miss work completely that day or that week. It just, things in life happen, and we need to be able to shift and move with them, and then get back to our balance, you know, our go-to, back to the 33% of three things. Once things level back out, you know, the two things that people often do is when work starts taking too much of their time, they'll just continue to go with that and never get back to spending more time with the family. You know, that's when the problems come in, is when either we don't let work ever take up more than a certain period of our time. If it never takes up, you know, sometimes work needs a little bit more of attention.
Right.
Just a little, and then we can get back and get back to our balance. Sometimes family does, but a lot of times people will start going in a direction of their business, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, 5 years goes by, and they look and they haven't spent hardly any time with their family. Like, how did I get here? Well, your balance shifted over to the work, and you never shifted it back. You have to look at that big picture and shift it back once the situation is over.
So does balancing look a lot less like a straight line and more like juggling?
Yeah, it's kind of like juggling. It's I'm careful about that reference just because
Juggling has a bad connotation to it. Like you're trying to do too many things, keeping too many balls in the air.
Exactly. It's like it's so much work. Oh my God.
It's more like skiing and going back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It can be
Just shooting.
dancing.
Well, you know what? I think I heard a smart man say that balance was like a dance.
Kind of.
I don't remember his name.
Glenn.
What's his middle name?
Aloysia.
Eloisha?
No, not really.
We promised that this week we would find out Glenn's middle name.
Yes, and it is not Aloysia.
But we will know by the end of the... Stay tuned for the entire half hour. We will find out by the end.
What a teaser.
That's what
God.
you do. That's how you keep him...
What if I spoil it right now by just saying it?
Don't do it.
Oh, come on.
No.
I want to so bad.
No, you can't. We have to build the tension.
All right. I'll try to do it your way. You're the producer. So.
All right. So juggling, bad.
No, bad. Bad juggling.
Bad.
So
dancing.
Yeah, dancing.
Dancing is not very balanced for me.
It can be.
Okay.
Just shifting your weight side by side, just going with the flow. It's a lot more like that. We have to make sure that we're not trying to maintain this perfect order in our lives, because we're never going to do that. But when we do shift out of it, we need to be able to get back to a little bit more balanced life.
I was just gonna say, on a serious note, I feel like the big thing about balance is not like a lot of times we do feel like we're juggling. Mm-hmm. And that we're trying to make everything a straight line and keep it good. But in reality, if you are trying to balance everything and you fall a little bit towards one side, all you have to do is just concentrate on making sure that you go back a little bit more to the left side.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. And you get it. And the part of it is knowing that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's this unrealistic expectation that life is going to be perfect. That's where a lot of our suffering comes in. It's like when we get a flat tire, it's this feeling that it shouldn't have happened. Oh my God, it's just wrecked my day and wrecked my week, and I got this flat. That's life. Why shouldn't it have happened? Sometimes there's sharp things in the road and you hit them with your tire. It's just, things like that happen. Sometimes, somebody has an accident. And, one thing we do very well is when there's an emergency, we're usually a little bit better at it because we're not thinking so much. Our thinking is the thing that screws everything up. It's that damn mind that gets in the way. But, when the thinking gets suspended and we just need to react, we usually do a better job. If there's some emergency with your family, you drop everything and run to the hospital. Boom. You just do it. You don't think about it. And then once it's taken care of, you might go back to work, either that day or the next day or whatever. You do what you need to, and then you get back into your routine. And that is what life looks like. But a lot of the suffering comes with thinking that it's not supposed to look like that. Like there are never supposed to be accidents. There's never supposed to be anything that's going to take us away from our routine. And this induced suffering that we put on ourselves, thinking that everything is supposed to stay perfect. And then we walk. What happens is if you're not careful, with this mindset, like this mindset, as I'm saying it, I can kind of get the feeling that people might be like, yeah, I kind of get what he's saying. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
But if you walk around living like that, And then 5 years, 10 years later, you look back on your life, you're unhappy a lot of the time. Because every time life happens, which is a lot, you think that it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
So you have resistance to life happening.
You know what this sounds like to me a lot is improv.
Yeah.
There's when I took improv class at school in New York, they really taught a little bit about like that the style of improvisation for actors is basically just mimicking life, and that it helps you, a great deal in life because it's just dealing with things as they come. And, an actor, a classically trained actor, as most people start out as when they get into it, is all about the lines and trying to make everything perfect and knowing that this is how this is supposed to be and this is it. And then when you walk into improv, it switches your mind around.
Right.
Because they're like, everything is supposed to happen.
Right.
And you have to accept it and deal with it and move on. And that balance, what you're saying is balance, sounds a lot like that, which I think is why that so many people now in America, so many like big businesses now have improv classes and improv teachers that are actors come in to teach people just how to deal with life or business in a way of like, it's going to happen. And
Right.
you need to not expect that it's the most awful, horrible thing in the world. You
Right.
need to,
And that's a big point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first thing that they teach you in those classes, or one of the first things, is that the answer is always yes.
Yes.
There is no.
right.
So that's exactly what we need to do when we're coming at life. And I touched on this in other podcasts.
Yeah, it was a couple podcasts ago.
Yeah.
It was
There's always going to be overlaps like
Yeah.
this with the with the podcast, but that's it. It's always saying yes to life.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever's it doesn't mean that you need to be happy about an accident happening or your priorities getting pulled away from your family to into your business. Sometimes that's going to happen. It's not like you have to say, "Oh yes, I like it when this happens."
Right.
It goes back to that getting back on track as soon as it's over. But it's saying yes to it, dealing with it, and then getting back to your routine.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the similarities in the acting class of, like, if you and I are improvising a scene together and we've not talked about it at all beforehand. And
Kind of like this.
Right, and we've got one direction of it, which is that it takes place at a restaurant, and I say like, "Oh, I like the calamari here." You have to accept. You can't go, "You're wrong. This is a."
I say yes, calamari's good. No one else is good,
Right.
And to keep it going,
and vice versa. If you say, this is where the flat tire situation comes in, because you're at a restaurant, cool. Like, you're at a restaurant, I say there's calamari, that's what you expect me to say. You expect me to say something that makes sense.
Right.
When we balance our lives, we expect things to happen in a way that makes sense. When the person across from me, however, I say, calamari's great here, and you say, yeah, I wonder how they transported it here to the moon, which is the big that everybody always goes straight for the moon. My response to that has to accept that you just said that we're on the moon.
right?
That moon is a flat tire.
Exactly.
It's somebody throwing a monkey wrench into what you had as this nice, perfect little scene.
yes,
And when you throw that monkey wrench in, you have to go with it.
yes,
Because it stops you dead in your tracks. If I say, no, this isn't the moon.
and
what
that's
are you
exactly
talking
what
about?
happens in life. So
And that's
it's
confronting your...
you've got two choices. You either go with life or you build up resistance to it. You put a block up against life, and that's exactly what you were talking about. Whether you're talking about the improv or life, it is. You're right. It's exactly the same thing. If I go with it, then I'm going with life. If I resist it, then I'm putting up a block and I'm stopping it. So, which well, I'm trying like hell to stop it. What happens is it just gets
But
real
you
ugly.
can't because it's already there.
Right,
It's already
right.
out there.
It's already out there.
happened.
So your resistance, and this is resistance to what is. What's more futile than that?
Yeah.
Resisting something that already is. It is. So you need to go with it, and so you go with it. But we always, and I'm going to reference like 62 different podcasts, even though we don't have that many yet.
I think this is like 12. So
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
Yeah, it's, resisting what is having false expectations of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's all this stuff. That's why I wanted to do a podcast on this balance, because it shows it can affect your life in so many different ways if you are resisting what is. Well, changes are going to happen. You need to be able to go with them and expect them and not judge them as bad every time they happen, because you're going to be miserable if you're doing that. Just go with it, do what you need to do, and get back on track as soon as you can.
Yeah.
But
That's huge.
it is huge. It's going with the flow of life, as opposed to, the getting the ducks in a row. And I always, I like funny visuals. It's like you get your ducks in a row, they're never going to stay there. If you're lucky enough to actually get them in a row, one of them's going to keel over, somebody's going to kick one over. It's just not going to, they're not going to stay in a row. It's just not going to happen.
Once you get them in a row, you can never just turn around and lead them and not look back. It's not gonna happen.
Something, one of them's going to, their attention's going to get grabbed because of a piece of food on the ground or something. These damn ducks. You can't trust them. You can't trust a duck.
No, you should never trust a duck.
You shouldn't trust anything that waddles like a duck, that has webbed feet and a beak. How can you trust something?
What are we talking
I don't know. I just had to break left, man. It was just too
Give a
serious there
duck's
for a
name.
minute.
Give the name of a duck.
Quacker.
Oh, I was hoping you were just going to say your middle name.
Well, see, you just resisted what I did right there.
Well, no.
Why didn't you go with it?
So you want to do an improv exercise?
No, I don't want to do that because I will lose, and this is my podcast, and that's not fair.
There are no winners or losers, Glenn. We're a team. We're working together.
Yeah, so as long as we stay on not doing an improv.
I was just trying to get you to say your middle name, which we will get to before the end of the half hour. Glenn Ambrose's middle name on this episode.
And I bet you're all on the edge of your seats with that one. I mean, how can you stand it?
You know what it is? Last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago's episode, we were so far over into the life and lessons side of it when we were talking about fear that we needed to add a little bit of balance and bring some laughter back into the podcast.
I see what you did there. You brought in this
Does that make sense?
episode. Yeah, kind of. I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It works.
Yeah. You know what it is also? Just I'm gonna pull back the curtain a little bit here. Yeah. But we usually record 2 episodes at a time. I know. It's okay. It's okay for them to find out.
They see the wizard.
It doesn't happen on Sunday morning. We usually record 2 episodes at a time. Second episode, always goofier.
Yeah.
Always.
Loosen up,
First episode, we're always like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this is the answer to your problems. And
We're going to
like,
have to release them
yeah.
like in reverse sometimes, every once in a while.
Gonna have to.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Maybe we do.
But
I have some pretty good producers, so they probably think that out.
the other, no. You have one good producer, and you have one me. So there's that.
That's compliments for Dave DeAngelis.
He shrugged. He's resisting what is, which is that he's talented. All right, so what about the control freaks?
Oof.
What about the people that are anal retentive and OCD and they're going to get those ducks in a row?
Yeah. The more people I work with, the more I see the OCD thing. So many people have at least a portion of that. I'm starting to think it's almost the norm, to be honest with you. I think that people have, I've seen it in myself. And what I've done with it that I've seen work for myself and others is when you see yourself behaving in some OCD ways, just simply try not to do that. Like if you notice you're checking the door 3 times to see if it's locked, or, just say, when you notice yourself doing that, be like, I'm going to make myself not do that because I don't want to fall into the pattern. And then just apply some effort and then stop yourself from doing that. And you know what? It works amazingly. I've seen it work with tons of people. Just little things like that. And then, we don't fall into that pattern. It's where I see it become a problem is where people just allow themselves to do that. And then another thing creeps up. And then they feel that they have to. And then they do that. And then another thing. Next thing you know, 5-10 years goes by and everything's OCD. But I mean, I think we all have that aspect of us. Control makes us feel safe. So we give ourselves the illusion of control. And that's really what we're talking about here, is control is an illusion. We don't have it. We can't control life. Life is going to flow, and we need to flow with it. If we think that we're in control of life, life's going to set us straight.
Yeah. What about, because obviously balance is, like, we've been putting it really towards balance is loosening up on those strings of control.
Right.
What about the opposite? What about the guy that's so loosey-goosey that he lets things slide and he goes way over into the I don't care?
Well, sounds like he has an issue of balance.
That's what I'm saying.
I know,
Glenn.
It's so you got to bring it back. It's that this is why living consciously and living in awareness is such a big deal. There is a lot of times we're looking for these huge, insightful answers, and a lot of it is just living in awareness. If you are trying to control everything, don't try to control everything. Live in awareness. Be conscious of what you're doing. And if you are conscious about what you're doing and you pay attention and you live life on purpose, what you're going to do is mostly we don't go and screw up our lives and go too far in one direction when we're living consciously. We do that when we're living unconsciously. So if you just live consciously and aware and you look and you go, you know what? I think I'm trying to control things a little bit too much. Maybe I'll try taking my hands off this. This is a small one. And then you do that. Then I'll try to take my hands off of this and just kind of go with this situation. And then all of a sudden things start balancing out. And it's the same thing, if you look at your life and it's just running rampant and you're just, you're not getting anything done. Your life isn't moving forward because you're just laying around in the middle of a park all day. Well, then start bringing in some structure into your life. Just bring a little, maybe I'll job search for an hour a day. Maybe I'll, just anything. Start heading in the opposite direction, And if you just do it little by little, you're going to naturally find that balance.
Now, I know that I'm way more on that end of the spectrum than on the in control of everything, but what you just said made me think, oh man, I haven't gone and laid in the park for a while, so now I'm going to go do that.
Oh,
why is that what I took from that?
Because you need to bring some joy into your life. Maybe that's the part that needs that you need to bring in for balance.
No, I think more work. But you keep saying, probably in every podcast, because it's the underlying theme, probably.
Yeah.
This idea of living consciously, or living in awareness. If you're not doing those two things, it seems like you are doing those two things. Like, it's not something that you think about unless you're thinking about it. And I know that sounds really stupid, what I just said, but like, that's something that would never cross your mind unless somebody said it to you, I guess. Like if you're
Yeah.
living unconsciously.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's either when somebody says it to you, or a lot of times suffering brings that on. You know, if you're sitting there unhappy with your life, if you're unhappy enough, then you've got a shot at being honest with yourself. And you can just kind of sit there and go, you know, what do I need? You know, what's wrong with my life? What's out of balance? You know, that's why I said, I think it was the last podcast, you know, a lot of it is just slowing down and looking at your life, you know, and I've mentioned this before too, happiness. If you want happiness in your life, which is the goal of what we're talking about, it's always to bring more happiness and fulfillment in your life. If you want that in your life, you need to put some energy towards it. You can't just sit around running around unconsciously and expect there to be happiness in your life. You know, you need to put some energy towards it. And one of the first things you can do is just stop for a minute and look around at how you're living your life. How am I living my life? What's my life consists of? Am I putting too much effort into work? Am I putting too much effort into play? Too much effort into my family? Am I putting the right amount in all of them? Have I been leaning too far in one direction? Do I need to pull it back? You know, if you stop long enough and just ask yourself these questions, you know, you're probably going to come up with a lot of the answers.
Tell me if I'm wrong on this.
You're wrong on this. Oh, wait, I didn't hear it yet. Oh, no, never mind. You might be right.
Practice. Is that a thing for this? Because I feel like it's possible for someone who was living unconsciously to start being conscious of it and then to slip back out of it every once in a while.
Oh, sure, that's natural.
That's going to happen. So is it one of those things where, like you just said, putting more energy into it, it's all about practicing this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just practicing. And if you look at it like practicing, you're going to put less pressure on yourself to get it right. That's another thing we do is we think, you know, oh, well, I worked 2 hours. I need to spend more time with my family. Then all of a sudden you work a couple hours overtime and you're like, you know what? I didn't really have to do that. Then we'll beat the crap out of ourselves because we weren't doing what we're supposed to because we told ourselves we'd do that last week. I mean, it's like never ending, you know, so look at it like it's a practice. You're just practicing and you get a little bit better at it each time, you know, and that's one of the first things I tell people to do is to practice meditating. It just helps just to stop your mind, you know, and everybody's like, well, I can't meditate because I can't stop my mind. Well, that's why you need to meditate. You know, you need to teach your mind to be able to slow down a little bit. And then when you think about these things, you'll probably come to the truth. But if your mind's going 90 miles an hour, it's hard to get to the truth of anything. But that's a practice. You know, you practice slowing down your mind. You practice looking at your life and bringing balance into it. And you do it little by little. And what's amazing is if you do these things little by little to the best of your ability, all of a sudden, you know, 5 years goes by or 1 year goes by or whatever, a period of time goes by, you look back and you're like, oh my God, I'm so much happier. I have so much more balance in my life. I stress out so much less. And it just happens over time as you implement these things into your life little by little.
I think we could sum it up as just going back over what we've said today. Balance is a dance. It is
specifically the cha-cha.
Okay, it's the cha-cha. It's improvisation. It's accepting reality. It's accepting what is.
Mm-hmm.
It's practice and living consciously, and it's a lot. But
it is.
But it's simple at its core.
Right, and that's the paradox of anything that is truth, anything that is underlying spiritual. It sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. And it's all those things, but all those things are actually the same. So what you want to do is you want to pick the one that clicks with you. Don't take the 5 different things that you just said and try to be like, okay, I have to watch for the balance, and I have to make sure I'm dancing, and I have to do this, and I have to do
right.
No, pick the one that clicks with you. Whatever resonates with you, and start working on that. That's, I learned a long time ago with personal training, when you're teaching many people the same thing, you're going to have to say it in different ways. You're going to have to instruct people in different ways because people learn differently. One person, one way you phrase it is going to click. Another person, another way you phrase it is going to click. So you just, oftentimes I'll explain things and throw out different ways to look at it. And whenever something clicks inside of one of the audience members and you go, oh, I identify with that. Okay, that's the one. That's yours. That's the one that clicks with you. That's the one you work on,
This has been an awesome conversation.
It's amazing.
Probably one of my favorite podcasts we've done so far. Where can people contact you, Glenn?
They can contact me at life-enhancement-services.com. That was perfect.
It was.
And my Facebook page.
Which is?
Life Enhancement Services. Or my personal one, Glenn Ambrose. 2 N's.
Okay.
In Glenn.
And what is your middle name?
My middle, I'm not telling.
Next time? Next time.
I have to tell.
Is it Matthew?
No.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
It's Alan.
Glenn Allen?
Glenn Allen Ambrose.
All right.
The man, the myth, the legend.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Glenn Allen Ambrose. I forgot your name that time.
Nice.
All right.
Somebody had to forget it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for tuning in.
This podcast is presented by New Shore Productions. Executive producers Glenn Ambrose, Benjamin Barber, and David DeAngelis.